Casey and Zoe. Thing.
I want to do one of the philosophical ones, like does
Evil,
God
rational?
4 new arguments for God existing? That's interesting.
Well, yeah, and it could be, considering that I actually do believe
You
in
know,
God.
for 27 years, I was
And
an
I'm
atheist.
curious what
I
his
thought
new
anyone
arguments
who
are.
believed in a God or gods was, well, stupid, or uneducated, naive, gullible, or just into the gig for money, sex, and power. I mean, after all, everyone knows that religion is just a psychological crutch for intellectual weaklings, right? So,
Yeah.
what changed my mind?
No, I don't think so.
Well, look, I
Not
tell
all
the whole
religion.
story in my book, Shattered, but for our purposes here on Prager University, I was simply challenged by my Christian teammates on the Cincinnati Reds to read some religious books, critique them, and then share with the guys where the authors were wrong and why atheism is the only real and true outlook for anyone not deceived by fantasy, fiction, or mythology. I mean, for someone who wants to base their beliefs and values upon evidence and argument, not emotion and tradition. Now look,
This is a funny thing. Wait, what did he just say? He was saying, yeah, like I used to not believe in God, but I never thought of myself as an atheist. Partly because I think it's just really a weird label. Like I've always thought it's strange to philosophically label yourself based on something you don't believe in.
Yeah, I
You know?
heard someone arguing about this yesterday.
Like I don't believe in bridge trolls, but I would never say like I'm an anti-bridge troll, And obviously the context with God is that atheism is reactionary to people believing in God, and I totally understand why a lot of atheistic people feel threatened by the dominance of God in all kinds of cultural contexts. So I get like the feeling of a need to push back, and it's still just very strange to me to label yourself on what you don't believe in.
Right, it's not a religion to not subscribe to religion.
No. Though I do think some atheists can get pretty dogmatic sometimes. But yeah.
But yeah, I think it's also linguistically a little weird. And also what he's talking about right now, or at least what it seems like he's setting himself up to do, is to use religious texts to justify religion.
Right.
Which means that's saying like I'm using the Harry Potter books to prove Hogwarts exists.
Yes.
It's just that's not a good place to come from.
I'm looking at Mark.
He wrote a movie about Curtis LeMay.
Yeah. You wrote a movie about Curtis LeMay, Mark.
I want to hear. I want to see.
I didn't
I
know.
read.
Oh, he ran for president. Interesting.
difficulties along the way. Difficulties like Aristotle, Augustine, Aquinas. I mean, in simple terms, I was confronted with the awareness that there are really 4 big bangs that have to be accounted for, not just one.
Okay.
I had never really even considered that before.
Interesting.
I mean, we're all familiar with the first Big Bang, right? It's usually the answer given to the question, why is there something rather than nothing?
Yeah, and I'm fascinated by the Big Bang because a lot of atheists like push really hard on this science. Like it wasn't God, it was the Big Bang, and it's like.
Well, is he talking about...
If God is real, God can make a Big Bang.
Yeah.
And that's like what's always weird to me about like trying to differentiate the miraculous from the non-miraculous, because for me it's like all miraculous. Like the fact that anything exists is wild, and to me like the Big Bang is like the miracle to begin all miracles. Like we don't know why it happened. It's totally mysterious.
I don't know, but is he talking about the literal Big Bang?
Yeah.
Or is he saying that there
Right
are...
now he's talking about he's saying there are 4 Big Bangs, not just the first one, and he's starting with the literal first Big Bang.
Oh, and then like Earth
in
is the
physics.
next Big Bang.
Something
and
like
okay,
that.
Okay,
Yeah,
but there, just to add to your point, there is a there's an essay I read a long time ago in school about needing to you cannot refer to God as being something. Like you can't say God is strong because our concept of strong cannot actually describe God. You have to say God is not weak.
Right.
The only way that a human can like possibly begin to skirt the surface of correctly describing God is to talk about the things that he is not, because the things that he is beyond our comprehension. So Something like
Interesting.
the Big Bang, yes, could be caused by a god, because we cannot comprehend
Right.
a human guy who, with our strength or
Yeah.
hopefulness or
Yeah,
what
yeah.
love or whatever,
Yeah.
which are human emotions, he's so beyond that. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that some creator could have done this thing.
Yeah, and also I just find it very like that's just like the fact that we even have figured out that the Big Bang happened and done all the math to figure that out, and that like, but that we're still, it's a wall that we can't, with our current tools and scientific analysis, we can't figure out what happened before that. That to me is, it's just like, because that's to me is like what the creator force is. It's like what caused the Big Bang, you know, and we
Right.
don't know, and something did, because I mean, again, if we're going to go by science, we know that every effect has a cause and every cause has an effect. So like something made the Big Bang. And sometimes I hear like atheists and like very scientifically minded atheists talk about like well, before the Big Bang there was just nothing, and they really believe it. I mean, talk about, you know, dogmatic, like that they really think that like before the Big Bang there was just truly nothing. And I think that is just, I find that confounding. I can't imagine.
I mean, I
don't
find the
think
concept
nothing-
of God a little confounding.
Sure.
So it's like I can understand like where that viewpoint is coming from. And this is not to say that I don't believe that there is a creator. I don't
Right,
know,
right.
and I'm not claiming to know or not know.
You're more agnostic.
I'm
right?
much more agnostic than Casey, actually.
Yeah, no, I
But,
straight up believe in God.
Yeah, I can't
My
say that I do.
very specific version.
I believe in like a connective consciousness, which I would call God, but I don't
Yes.
necessarily believe in any sort of creator that drives anything. However, I think that being able to conceptualize nothing feels very similar to me as conceptualizing like what happens when you die, like our own
Right.
non-existence, because I think we're conflating like the actual nothing with our concept of non-existence. Like
Right.
nothing means nothing exists.
Yes.
And that's incomprehensible. But I don't think it's necessarily out of the realm of possibility that there was nothing. I just think that it's just not a claim that you can make.
It just seems like a very unscientific claim.
Yeah,
to
it's
say that,
based on science.
To say
You
that
can't
the
make
Big
that
Bang,
claim.
it just happened because no reason.
Yeah,
It's like, that's science?
Yeah, exactly.
That doesn't sound
that doesn't
like
make any
science
sense
to me.
either.
No, and I've heard like scientifically minded people say basically that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. Like obviously I would never assert that there was a big white man with a beard
Yeah.
who was just all alone, like, I'm so lonely, I'm gonna make a universe. Like, no, certainly not. But like something. I mean, I love
Something had to cause something to happen.
right, and I kind of dig the theory of. Have you ever heard and this is kind of older science. This might be like out of fashion now or debunked, but the Big Crunch theory. Have you ever heard of this?
I have heard this.
The idea that like basically like that the universe is expanding now, but that it'll like reach
And
a
then
massive point, and then it'll constrict again, and everything will be crushed and destroyed, and all the stars will go out, and all the, you know,
and it's cyclic, right?
yeah, and then it's cyclic, and then it all squeezes down to like a single point of maximum gravity, crushed, and then at that point when it reaches that like single, that singularity, then it explodes again, and that's a new Big Bang, and that's another cycle of the universe.
Yeah.
Which I think is very fascinating.
I'm curious.
It still wouldn't answer what's beyond the universe.
Right. What is surrounding the nothing?
But then there are also, I think, you know, it's fascinating, like multiversal theory, and that.
Well, see, that's the only thing that really makes sense to me. What lies outside the universe is
More
The
universe.
idea that
Sorry. My mistake.
what lies
sensitive
outside the
microphone.
universe is other universe, and
Right.
there's an infinite number of universes
Yeah.
that all exist planily on top one on top of the other.
Yeah, and then there are astrophysicists who think that black holes are actually, you know, portals between universes.
Well, we know so little about it.
We know so little about it, but I mean, yeah, it's all very fascinating. And like we were kind of talking about with woo-woo the other day, it's like you can engage with all of this fascinating, awesome scientific research and still be woo-woo. There's still so much room.
You can still be woo-woo
to consider what would
like
cause
science.
all these things, you know. And
Oh yeah, I am so into the astral projection and stuff
Oh,
like
yeah,
that.
for sure.
And I think that that's all. I don't necessarily think it's just lucid dreaming. I think that, you know, if there is like an alternate universe where a version of us exists, I don't think
Yeah.
it's beyond the realm of possibility that we can connect with that brain of ours. Which, you know, would say that we have one soul between all of us,
yeah.
but you know,
I mean,
we don't know.
Yeah, I think the dream space is really profound, and that there's like weird shit going on there that we don't totally understand.
All right, prove to me God exists.
But anyway,
my
let's
friend.
talk about more Big Bangs.
There was nothing, it popped, and boom, there's something. I mean, that time, matter, and space all came into existence in some great cosmological flash about 16 billion years ago. There was no gradual development, no transitional forms, just a binary flip. A metaphysical, now you don't see it, and now you do. Fine. I want to follow the evidence.
That's not. That's you're being a little
Well, it's
reductive.
He's looking at it through a human's perception of time. The Big Bang was not really actually instantaneous. It just happened so quick. I mean, it was an instant, and then, as I understand, but then like the expansion, the everything, all of matter coming out and be like that. It happened so quickly that to a human it would seem instantaneous. But
Yeah.
but if you could slow time down, you'd see that it was still sequential. You know.
Wherever it leads. However, astrophysicists tell us that this first Big Bang yielded only a handful of fundamental elements, and that it would take billions and billions of years for the nuclear furnaces of trillions of stars to yield the 118 elements in the periodic table.
I'm curious.
But the first theoretical cosmological Big Bang, well, it only yields matter and energy. It doesn't even begin to address the origin of life.
Well,
So
life
how
is
do
matter
you
and
get
energy,
life
my friend.
from non-life?
okay.
How did
That's a fair
a-bi-o-gen-e-sis
question.
occur? I mean, the notion that something can come from nothing. Where's the evidence?
Well, it's not life from nothing. It's a complex chemical soup and like solar rays. I mean, as I understand, scientists are still figuring this out. There isn't a concrete full answer, but we're already discovering how like you know, certain proteins like amino acids and stuff can come into being in a liquid soup with the right chemical components and the right exposure to solar radiation. Like, it's not life from nothing. It's a chemical phenomenon we call life from a chemical phenomenon.
I also would argue that the universe is alive. I think.
Me too.
I don't think that life is you know, just organisms.
No, I think the distinction is far less life and death and much more conscious and unconscious.
Yeah, consciousness feels different than life.
Yeah.
It says to me something's alive when it does something, and from going from nothing to something
Yeah.
is a thing that is done, and that just says life to me.
Right. Well, and it's like if you imbue a table with all of the attributes that we have as conscious beings, then it would be conscious. Then it would be alive. You know, like life is a checklist of fact, of phenomena. But yeah.
Well, you're going to need another something from nothing leap of faith, some kind of biological second Big Bang.
No. I didn't expect him to go off the rails so fast, but like.
I knew it. I knew it was gonna take just one. He was gonna be okay for one,
Yeah.
and be like, "Here you go, you scientists."
No,
and then he was gonna take it to.
These aren't additional Big Bangs.
He's-
This is just developmental stages of the universe.
Also,
as
I'd like
we
to
understand
acknowledge
it.
that the title of this is four. Excuse me. 4 new arguments for whether or not God exists.
Yeah.
So far, none of this is new.
Yeah, no, not even.
Not
one
even
of
a single thing he said yet. And
the-
we're halfway through the video, which I
Yeah.
assume means that the other through 2 Big Bangs are his other new concept. This
Yeah.
isn't new.
It's, the others are going to be like civilization.
Yeah.
Right. It's probably. Gonna
And
be
then
one.
we discovered God
Yeah.
or whatever,
And then
you
the
know.
Bible.
The Bible,
biggest
yeah.
bang of
Yeah.
all.
All right, so our predictions for Oscars of 2022 are, yeah.
Yeah, no, there's, yeah, it's not a big, the development of life was
I'm
not
excited to see
another
where he
big
goes.
bang.
Yeah.
It was, yeah, like I already said, a chemical development.
for all the mind-blowing advancements we've made in physics, biology, and chemistry in just the past 100 years, we're still no closer to making it happen. We don't have a clue. The closer we look, the wider the...
No,
That's not true.
No, the closer we look, the better we understand. We have a better understanding of this than we ever did in
The
human
more
history.
you try to explain life away, well, because this is manipulative.
Yeah.
He's basically saying, like, if you try to explain life in a secular way, you're just gonna get further away from the answer. The only explanation is God. That's what I'm getting from this.
Yeah, and it's just not true. We are closer than ever to understanding the chemistry of life and how life develops.
No,
on
the chasm is
planet.
getting wider.
And like there's still a lot of mystery. There's still a lot
Yeah.
of things we don't understand.
Yeah.
But to claim that we the more we study life, the less we understand how it happens, total bullshit.
Bullshit.
We understand it better than ever.
Nonsense.
chasm. I mean, sure, we've learned a lot about how to manipulate life forms, how to add and subtract DNA material, even map the human genome, but we have no idea how to literally create...
You just gonna brush aside mapping the human genome after you just claim that we have less understanding than ever? It's wild. So this guy's saying until we can literally make a Frankenstein's monster, we don't really understand
Yeah.
life.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, like we've made kids in test tubes. We've cloned sheep. Didn't someone clone a human too illegally somewhere?
Oh, really?
I think didn't that happen? Like a human
I don't
fetus was
know. I'll
cloned?
look
Maybe
into
I'm
it.
wrong. Maybe I'm being silly.
I'm not gonna say you're
But-
right or wrong, but I will
but-
definitely look into it.
But to set a metric of we have to be able to stitch together corpse parts and reanimate the flesh in order to prove we have an understanding of life
That's so ridiculous.
is very, very funny. Good joke, sir.
life from dead stuff. Now look, at this point, we still only
Also-
have physics.
Yeah.
He's saying life from dead stuff.
Yeah.
Dead implies was once living.
Mm-hmm.
What if you get life from inanimate stuff? That would be
Yeah.
more
Yes.
intriguing than life from dead stuff. Which, like, because he's once again, he's just going back to the point that
Yeah.
that I made, that everything is a little bit alive.
Yeah. Also, the current only source of life, nature,
Yeah.
does not use dead stuff. Nature is not turning dead bodies into living bodies.
Yeah.
We are not born of corpses. Life stuff comes from chemical
It's
processes.
It's
From living
newness.
stuff.
Yeah.
You know, like life comes from. I mean, with humans, two living people coming together,
I just-
combining their life force, and then another living thing comes out of their living. No one's doing it with Frankenstein.
Life begets life.
Frankenstein strategies, dude. You got to get off the Dr. Frankenstein tip. It's really,
Weird.
really confusing
It's
you.
weird. You're
and
weird,
chemistry
sir.
and some basic biology or matter, energy, and simple life, if you will. But we still don't have a way to account for the great diversity of life forms. I mean, the huge differences between...
Yeah, we do. Evolution.
No,
this
no.
guy anti-evolution?
Of course he is, Casey.
Well,
this is PragerU.
I mean, I think it's a safe bet, but this guy's really trying to present himself as like that he came at this from, like he was like, I was an atheist and I was all about science. And now he's saying these ridiculous non-scientific things.
bacteria, plants, and animals. Nor do we have a way to account for the differences between
Chelsea,
man
welcome.
and animal. We
Yes.
still don't
Yes,
have
we
a...
do.
I love that Chelsea's here.
Hey, Chelsea.
Coming back for the fun.
Yeah, see, Chelsea knows.
The difference between man and animal, we still don't have in anthropology.
Yes,
we do.
do.
Yes, we
Are
do.
you kidding? I mean, for one thing, the frontal lobe, our expanded frontal lobe is huge because it contributed to our ability to actually perceive time, conceptualize time, and plan for a future, which other animals can only do on an instinctual level.
Right.
So there's one thing. I mean, I'm not a biologist or an anthropologist, but like these are wild claims. But these are the
These
kind
are
of
insane
claims.
claims.
These are the kind of ignorant claims you can make to an ignorant audience, and they'll just be like, "Wow, this guy really thought it through."
Well, what he's banking on is that people are not going to have any. I don't want to say the word education because education can be really gatekeepy.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think capacity to comprehend a certain thing, especially if you're in an environment that is very sheltered or same, like everything is very similar around you. It is much more difficult for you to comprehend these massive things. So for someone who like this to come to you and say like, oh, I have this answer and it just makes sense because it makes sense, they're gonna want to accept that for their own peace of mind. This is a manipulation tactic.
Yeah, and it's also manipulative, misleading in that it's presenting itself as though it's like this former atheist talking about how he came to believe in God, and that it's like it's presenting itself sort of like that it's for other skeptics. That it's like, hey, are you skeptical about God? Well, consider these 4 new arguments from a guy who was also skeptical.
Not new arguments.
Right, 4 not new arguments. Consider this, but what this actually is pornography for people who already believe in God.
Yeah.
This is pornography so that a true believer can watch and go, oh, look, one of those people who thought they knew better, but they came to their senses.
Yeah.
Meh, meh, meh.
Well, it's
That's
just
what
like
it's
when
actually
someone,
offering its audience.
like that girl who left the Westboro Baptist Church. The only people that really watch her content are people like you and I.
Right, yeah.
Like, they're people of the like, evangelicals are not like, look at this girl who did this.
She's not converting a bunch of people.
They're like, oh, she left, fuck her. Anyway, you know, it's like,
totally.
He's in an echo chamber, but okay. Let's see.
Oh, they love their echo chambers.
Anthropology at this point. So we're going to need a kind of anthropological third Big Bang to account for all this, which of course is what Darwin was after in his Descent of Man thesis.
Okay, so it's
Darwin's
a,
a fucking racist, by the way.
He was. It wasn't civilization as the next Big Bang. It was the shift from
Monkey to man.
primates to humans, not monkeys.
Oh, I know, baby.
You know, I'm just saying.
Bonobos.
I don't want to mislead anyone at home. Apes. Yeah, okay, so I had something else about that, but whatever.
Now look, Darwin answered a lot of questions, but he could never answer the core question. How did evolution begin?
Dude. It began with life.
We have answered that question.
It began with the first mutation of a single-cell organism. That's how it began. And then mutations continued through generations of biological reproduction. What the fuck are you talking about, man? They'll just say this shit.
Are you arguing that, like, God is the reason that we have appendixes?
Yeah, right.
Like, what?
Yeah, that
Come
God
on.
was like, I will give my greatest creation a tailbone just for funsies.
Yeah. I will
come
give
on,
the men
dude.
nipples.
Yeah.
I'll put them on the boys, too, because they look nice.
Just to play with when you're bored.
It's God coming from the sky.
It's so out there. Okay.
But hey, we're still not done.
How did, like, this is his source, is a thought bubble on a...
I was worried we were just gonna stay
stick figure.
super intellectual the whole time, but
Yeah.
he's getting getting worse.
No, this is
It's getting
the
funny.
last video is a lot more just like the last video was a well-crafted lie.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't as like what? It was
Yeah,
like we
yeah.
actually had to go like look things up to debunk it.
Yeah.
But this is one of those, like most PragerU videos, where it's just like, wow, you're goofy, man.
Done describing the world that is all around us. A final Big Bang is going to be required to explain how a mechanistic animal brain can become a self-reflective human mind.
Frontal lobe, you dumb
Even the
fuck.
lowest life forms have brains and central nervous systems. I mean, how does something like that become the mind of a Michelangelo?
How can a monkey become a Michelangelo?
Slow, gradual evolution over a long period of time, sir.
I wonder. I'm always curious about this because you know
Holy fuck.
the first like human that is developed as a human, which means like we have the same intellectual capacity as this first human. This was something like 500,000 years ago, and the first recorded moment of human history was only like not even 10,000 years ago or something. So we don't have any record of human history up until then. And I'm so curious about what they believed, because they had our intellectual capacities. Did they worship? Did they, that always blows my mind.
Well, yeah,
a
and we
little
do have
bit.
some, like, we can draw a lot from, like, cave paintings and
Yeah.
that kind of evidence that, even in our earliest Homo sapien days, we were already very creative, very into iconography, very into symbols, and there's lots of proto-religion evidence that we were playing with notions of God long before any organized church system.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah.
Shakespeare, a Beethoven. Come on, animals don't do art, and they don't appreciate beauty.
Dude.
Animals.
There are animals who do art, first of all.
Yeah. Animals.
It's also, how do you define art?
Also, how do you know if an animal's not appreciating beauty? You know what I mean?
There are cats who paint. There's a whole book. You may make an argument that they're less into the creating of the visual aesthetic and more into the sensory experience of splatting paint around.
Yeah.
But they seem to be doing something like that. Or else it's like, is a beaver dam art?
Yeah,
I'd say,
interesting.
Yeah, I mean,
It's functional.
I tend to think art
but-
is just something that humans created that provokes an emotional response, I guess. But everything does provoke an emotional response.
Well, yeah,
So-
I mean, the pieces my brain are telling me to put together right now is like, it's hard to call like a dam art because a dam serves like a purpose, like
right.
for survival. However, humans require emotional stimulation for survival.
Yeah.
So really, you could argue that art, like a painting, is doing the same thing.
Yeah.
At least on a scale that like a dam is doing for beavers. So yeah, you could totally argue that.
Well, yeah, and it's also like that you to appreciate beauty is an emotional experience. It's not an intellectual. I mean, you can intellectually engage with a piece of art and analyze and criticize and commend it.
But that's like a painting.
intellectually.
If you look at like a landscape,
Right.
you're like, my heart and
Well, that's the
body."
thing too. Like an animal, like when an animal is, lovingly, like a mammal is lovingly licking its little baby pup, is it not appreciating the beauty of its child? How do you define? Like, these are all very wiggly words. Oh yeah, Chelsea. Yeah, a lot of studies surrounding octopus and their higher level of intelligence. Yep, certain octopi have shown recognition to different caretakers at aquariums. Yeah, octopi are super smart, or octopuses, I guess is the proper, right? Or octopi. I feel like, because I feel like I've been saying octopi, and I recently learned it's
Octopussy.
octopuses.
Sorry.
Or octopussy. But octopi feels
yeah.
right.
Octopi does.
I
feel
like
right.
how it sounds too, but I think it is actually octopuses,
Chelsea.
which sounds super
No, I'm
awkward.
just kidding.
No. I literally I learned that like a couple months ago. I
Did
think.
you really?
And I was like, oh shit, I've been saying it wrong. Yeah. I think.
Yeah, but octopuses, dolphins, like there are animals that are nothing like humans to the eye that are so intelligent, and
Yeah.
you just can't make these like general claims.
Intelligent and creative.
Yeah.
And just because they don't put shit in a museum and
Like,
go
I'm sorry,
stand
when
and
like
look
a
at it.
bird finds like a nice little feather for
Crows.
his other bird guy,
Yeah.
and he gives him a little gift.
No, but-
you're telling me that's not creative?
And you're telling me that bird's not appreciating beauty and that it's picking out a specific piece to give to its... Or crows. Crows collect pretty little baubles.
Pretty little like rocks and shiny
Just
things.
things that they think look nice.
I'm
Like,
sorry, that sounds like appreciative to me.
It's been proven there's no functional use for these things that crows collect. It's just like they're collecting them like baseball cards. So it seems clear to me that with all that evidence, these are all examples of animals that are in between evolutionary states,
Yeah.
beyond like an ant, and not quite at a human level.
Yeah.
But clearly here are these little flashes of like, give crows another 100,000 years and they'll probably be driving cars, or not car, because it probably won't be the best technology then, but they'll be doing something high tech. They'll be working a little crow iPad. How about that? That's nice. Crows with iPads. We can get behind that. Okay.
On to the show.
Beauty. But the problem is even more basic than that. How do you account for free will and introspection?
Frontal lobe, you fuck.
Also, is he implying that animals don't have free will? I guess they're like subject to their instincts.
Yeah, he's implying that they're more subject to their instincts, which is generally true.
Okay.
That's fine. Oops,
I mean,
went
it's
back
a bit of a leap, but I'll let it slide.
How do you account for free will and introspection, let alone man's pressing existential drive to ask why? Well,
Because our brain evolved to the point where we could ask those more abstract questions. Like, that is just a tipping point.
Also,
of
once again,
cerebral analysis.
not a new argument.
No, not at all.
need some kind of psychological fourth Big Bang to account for man's moral and aesthetic sense. I mean, his search for meaning, significance, and purpose. And of course, his appreciation for the true, the good,
I'm so glad we're
and the
covering his
beautiful.
face.
And again,
This is all just pragmatism. This is just like that we figured out that morality was good for the group.
So he's proving God
Human morality.
by going through like life cycles that we don't have full understanding of.
Yeah.
He's proving God because he can't disprove God, which is not how the burden of proof works. You can't disprove. You know what I mean?
It's a great thing to remember too. Yeah, that you can't disprove or prove God scientifically.
Yeah.
At least not with our current evidence.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So, yeah.
So, yeah. Sorry, that
Close
darn
the door.
toilet was running again.
I love when your toilet
I had
runs.
to jiggle that handle.
you must understand these problems require bangs. I mean,
They don't.
sudden binary pops into existence.
They're not sudden
They're
binary
not sudden
pops into
or
existence.
binary, dude. They're gradual. You just have to actually study the science and history.
He doesn't give a fuck.
Apparently not.
Since there's no evidence for any gradual development in any of these.
Dude, lie.
That's a
Fucking
lie.
lie.
That's not misinformation. That's disinformation. You're lying.
You're a liar,
You're
dude.
lying.
Or you're just very ignorant. Either way.
No.
So I, like you,
I don't buy it.
have a choice. It's either faith in these four Big Bangs of somethings from nothings to account for
Also, if you're going to trust the guy who bought that jacket, you're going to trust...
And is wearing it over a fucking high neck like black
Yeah.
tee.
You're
Come
gonna-
on, buddy.
Are you going to trust Fuzzy
You-
Felt Man to teach you about theology?
Ugly jacket, sir.
Beige felt. What a look.
what we see all around us.
I didn't
For
even
faith in
notice
some
it
kind of
until now.
creator God.
Jesus,
It
I
looks
want-
so
I
much
wanna-
worse on the high definition
Yeah,
screen.
I want to cut his jacket into triangles and
looks like
squares
it-
and do a kindergarten art project.
It looks like a like one of those down coats that like the
Yeah.
women in the 20s wear.
Yeah, totally. Yes,
yeah.
yes. Too fuzzy. Bring down the
End it all.
fuzz, dude.
So, next time someone asks you, hey, what about the Big Bang? Make sure you ask them which one.
Who is asking this?
No one. It's the straw man again.
It's a straw man again.
They
Like-
love to they love their
Like if
straw
you go up to an
man.
atheist and you're like, "Hey, God is real," they're not going to say, "Oh, really? What about the Big Bang?" Because that's not a counter argument.
It's not a counter.
No one said this.
The things are not mutually exclusive.
He's doing like that stand-up thing where you like make up that someone said something to you that was a perfect lead-in for you to say something really snappy back to them. You know, stand-ups don't do that as much these days, but like stand-ups in the '90s, that was like the main go-to. Was like, I went to this place and this guy was like, "Hey, God doesn't exist," and then I was like, "Well, what about the Big Bang?" You know, I was like. Or like, oh, there's some guy was like, I said God did exist, and he was like, what about the Big Bang? And then I was like, well, which one are you talking about? Because there are 4 Big Bangs. I got him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
So
cosmological, biological, anthropological, or psychological? I'm Frank Pastore.
He
from
just
PragerU
used a
University.
bunch of big words and thought that he was
Joint.
sounding smart.
I got to just also give it up to him that like what a delightfully protracted, obtuse argument. He really put time into it
he
and really
really
built
tried.
it out and came up with these 4 Big Bangs and was like, oh.
So
it's
wait,
like,
was his conclusion that either you believe in 4 binary Big Bangs or you believe in God?
Yes.
That's his ending
He's
argument.
like if you don't believe in God, then that means you're believing in even more ridiculous stuff because then you're saying that there are these 4 Big Bangs.
So he's just saying like you can't be an atheist. I'm proving God by saying if you don't believe in God, you're an idiot.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, good proof.
Pretty
Thanks,
much.
sir.